Hello, everybody. Welcome to my interview with Raven Kennedy. I'm really excited to be here today, and I know a lot of you guys in the comments are going to be as well. It's a real good time, but we're here because of FaRoFeb, and we have Harriet here, who is the founder, organizer of FaRoFeb, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Harriet, to tell us a little bit about it.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, I'm just here for a couple of minutes to tell you a bit about what FaRoFeb or Fantasy Romance February is. It's an event that goes through the whole of February that I started last year. And I started it because I was really frustrated, both as a reader of fantasy romance and an author of fantasy romance, that I couldn't find fantasy romance books to read. And it was really hard. And I knew that all these books were out there. And I knew that there were readers out there because it's become a really popular genre. And I just thought it was such a shame that there wasn't a better way to connect readers and authors. And so I thought it would be fun to start an event, which is FaRoFeb. So that's why we now have this month-long celebration of the genre. And there's so much stuff going on for the whole of February. So awesome interviews like this one. We've also got panels. There's another panel tomorrow. And if you go onto the website, www.farofeb.com, there is a full TBR, including Raven's books, my books, and 70 or I guess 68 other authors' books that you can check out. There are deals and discounts. We've got a readathon going on all week with reading sprints. Becca did some reading sprints last night, I think. Night before? Last night? I don't know. I've lost track. I don't know what's happening these days. And we've got giveaways, and we've got micro stories happening next week and takeovers the week after. There's so much stuff going on. So I really recommend you go onto the website, www.farofeb.com, and check it out. Yeah, and so I'm going to leave you guys to it. I can't wait to listen to the rest of the interview. And yeah, chat to you both soon.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining me here today.
I'm excited.
Very excited. I'm glad that you're excited to be here as well. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh God, I'm just kidding. Already, right out of the gate, I'm doing bad. I'm Raven Kennedy. My favorite genre to write in is fantasy romance, and my first series I've ever released was fantasy romance about a Cupid, and then my most recent is a Plated Prisoner series inspired by the myth of King Midas.
I have not read your Cupid series yet, but I'm looking. Are you just releasing a new book in that series at the minute?
Yeah, it's a spin-off because that series is complete. Yeah,
I saw that.
Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's perfect for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But I obviously I read Guild last year, and I've just read Glint, and I have 200 pages left of Gleam, and I know that you like your cliffhangers at the end, so I'm prepared. I don't know what's coming, but I don't want it, whatever it is.
Well, I think that cliffhanger isn't as bad as the other two books.
Oh good. So because obviously I've been able to read these ones back to back, so I'm concerned about having to wait.
Right.
I'm glad.
Well, it's not that long now because we're already in February.
It's true.
So the next one is May.
What is the release date for that one?
May 19th.
19th. Because I know there's quite a few of my subscribers who've gotten into this series because they've seen it on my channel and read it way before me, which always happens, and are just desperately waiting for book 4. Oh, but Tiffany disagrees and said the cliffhanger is horrible.
Maybe I'm a terrible judge of that.
We also have Amanda in the chat who says Gleam has made it to my favorite books of all time list. Nice. I read a very spicy scene while I was doing sprints last night, and I felt like I was visibly sweating.
Get hot.
So today we're going to be just running through some things. We'll talk about like your favorite books to read. We'll talk a little bit about the Plated Prisoner series, your writing process, and all that good stuff. But I guess we'll start with writing. So how long have you been writing?
Forever. I don't know. I always like to write stories. When I moved, I found like tons of like little notebooks that I wrote when I was like middle school.
Yeah.
Terrible. Never. I think I threw them away. They're so bad. But I've been writing forever. And then
Wow.
I started writing seriously um, maybe like 8 years ago. And then I think for like 3 years I tried to get an agent. It
Yeah.
never it never happened. And so then after my daughter was born, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it myself. And I wanted to I had that idea about a Cupid, and it was actually after I wrote a sadder book called The Girl Who Cries Colors, and I
Yeah.
needed something lighthearted, and so
Yeah.
I wrote my Cupid, and then yeah, I actually got readers, which I was like shocked, and so luckily I've been able to do it ever since.
How have you found the self-publishing process? Because obviously I assume with you trying to get an agent, you were trying to go into traditional first.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, when I first started, indie was really like taboo almost. Like
Yeah.
it was known as like if you do that, you suck as a writer, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I hated that, and because I read indie books and I really loved so many of them, and
Yeah.
so I was like, you know, I'm just gonna do it. The problem was I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have anybody. I didn't know
Yeah.
anybody, so I was kind of feeling my way through the dark, and but I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot, and I'm actually glad that I did it that way because I had full control and I got to learn in my own time and do whatever I wanted to do, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, indie publishing was life changing.
Yeah, because I know just before we went live, you were saying that you now write full time.
Yeah, yep,
Wow.
and I have been since Signs of Cupidity came out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like self-publishing is something that seems very daunting. I definitely understand what you mean when you said about it seeming quite taboo, because I had the same kind of misconceptions about it up until I think it was the beginning of 2020. I started reading indie fantasy romance because it's one of the only places you can find fantasy romance. And
yeah,
now the majority of the books that I read are self-published books, and it's
yeah.
just not because there is this misconception that it's not like real. They're not real books, but
Right,
they
you're not real authors or just
yeah,
yeah, I mean, and you still get the criticism that self-published authors are all like stay-at-home moms or bored
yeah,
women, and it's just, you know, insulting mostly.
yeah,
But there was that big misconception for a long time. But I think, uh, like Amazon in particular changed the game when they
mhm,
let you upload your book and start selling. So
yeah,
yeah, it's it's a different way of doing it, but I think now, TradPub is paying attention because some
yeah.
indie authors are doing amazing. So yeah, I think they just have to we just have to catch up on both sides.
I think, BookTok has had a big impact on fantasy romance and self-publishing.
Definitely.
It's even had a big impact on traditional publishing actually, and I think that, traditional publishers are maybe paying attention now because of how big things like self-published books and fantasy romance are on TikTok.
Right.
So, we are seeing, like, quite a few indie authors getting traditional deals at the
Right.
minute, but, yes, I'm glad that the indie publishing world exists because there previously hasn't been a huge market for fantasy romance within traditional publishing.
Right.
So it's good to
Yeah,
be
that's the
able to
thing. I mean, there were I've read things that TradPub authors, they had fantasy romance, but none of the big publishing houses would publish it. So
yeah,
then, you know, you never see those books. They never see the light of day. With an
no,
indie, they can literally publish whatever they want to write.
yeah. So in terms of your writing process, are you a pantser or are you a plotter?
I was always a pantser until the Plate of Prisoner series.
Wow. So how was the process different for you?
Um, I it was hard. I was the kind of person who like in college when you would like it was mandatory that you turn in an outline. I
Yeah.
would write my whole paper first and then do an outline because I just couldn't do it.
Wow.
I couldn't. plan ahead like that. I just had to see where I went. So that's basically how I wrote.
Yeah.
Until when I started Guild, I knew the series was really important to me, and I had a game plan from start to finish the whole series, and I knew that um, I had to stay on track for each book because it's the most complicated one I've ever written, with
Yeah.
lots of world building, lots of characters, lots of issues and POVs and all that. So I had to stay organized. It was I went through some growing pains, but now I think I might be converted into a plotter. We'll
Interesting.
see. Yeah.
One of my questions was going to be like, do you already know like where the series is going to end, and if that's something that you've always known? I feel like you can
Yep.
tell as well because of how well the plot seems to flow throughout the books. Like it seems like you know where it's going, and you can tell that that has been plotted in advance, which is there's some of my favorite stories to read where like you can pick up on the plotting from book one and see how it's like fed into the reveals in like book four and things like that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All the major plot points and secrets and reveals, and then my end game. I have that all mapped out since before I started writing Guild.
Wow. How long does it roughly take you to write each book?
Well, I did Guild differently because I wrote it over like course of a year
Mm-hmm.
in between other books that I was releasing, and then I went over it for another maybe 3 months when I wasn't writing anything else, and I just kind of rewrote my rough draft.
Mm-hmm.
But normally what I do is I just focus on one book at a time and do it within, I mean, I've written books in a month and I've written books in like 8 months, so it just depends. Gleam was the hardest, longest book ever, so that took me like 6 months to write, and
Yeah.
that's like 16-hour days doing nothing but writing.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
impressive. I don't think I could focus for so long.
It's hard. I have to turn my phone off so I don't scroll because
Oh
I
yeah.
get distracted.
Yeah, I can imagine. What's the most difficult like challenge that you've encountered when writing?
Um, I think every writer, you just start to doubt yourself that everything sucks and it's awful and you just can't trust yourself. I go through that a lot, but luckily I have author friends and they'll read it or brainstorm with me and not let me throw anything in the trash until
Yeah.
I finish. Yeah, and just sometimes you don't want to get up and write. You don't want to, but you have to. It's your job. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just kicking your own butt into gear, I guess.
I feel like that's something that any creative can relate to, because even if I make a video in advance that I put a lot of work into, by the time it rolls around to it actually going live, I've convinced myself that it's terrible.
Yeah. Oh
Even
yeah.
though it was like a great idea when I made it and I loved it when I watched it back, but when everybody else is gonna see it, I'm like, no, this is awful. Like
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to see this.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like hate the book when I'm writing it, any
Mhm.
book. And then after I read through and do my second draft, then I'm usually like, okay, but it's awful. And then right before release, you're like, this is junk. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Is there anything in particular that takes you longer to write, like action scenes or romance scenes, or like anything in particular that you struggle a little bit more with?
Um, I I always take longer on the romance scenes only because I I feel more pressure maybe. I don't want to ever let anyone down because I've read fantastic fantasy romance books. Then I get to the romance and I'm disappointed, and I never want that to happen for
Yeah.
my readers. So I spend a lot of time on them.
Mhm. Well, based on what I read last night, you've done a great job on the particular scene that I was reading.
Oh, did
But
you get to that part? Yeah, I wrote that scene like 10 times.
yeah, the middle, it's quite a lengthy scene. I really appreciated it. It was a good time. Um, so you've done a Cupid series, and now you're doing a Midas series. Is mythology something that you're particularly inspired by, or does it just happen that those two are mythological in origin?
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose. I just like to do things that people haven't done before. The Cupid thing just popped into my head. And Midas, I have always loved that story
Mm-hmm.
for years. And I actually there's a poem in the back of the book that I wrote, like, I can't remember now, maybe 3 years before I ever wrote Guild. And that was like the same kind of common theme.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've always wanted to write a story based on that,
I
but
really
with my
like
own twist. Yeah.
I really like what you did with Guild, and I don't want to give any spoilers, obviously, in this interview. And I don't know if there's a way that you can answer it without. But is there a particular way, like reason, why you took the take on Midas that you did without spoiling? Because I went into this book with a certain set of expectations when I found out it was a King Midas retelling,
Well,
and then
that's exactly why. That's why I did it. Yeah.
yeah. So as
Yeah.
soon as I started it with like the opening scene, we open up on like this orgy scene, and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is gonna go the way like this seems a bit suspicious. Like I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, originally I opened up a different way,
Mhm.
but um, and I know a lot of people are very critical of the beginning, but I wanted to show red flags right away in a really like um, shocking moment that outsiders, they can recognize immediately, but someone who is in it, like, you don't realize how crazy it is
Yeah.
because you're in it. And I think a lot of people um, can understand that too if you've ever been in a situation and you look back and you're like, what was I thinking, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, as shocking as it is, I did it um, just so readers could hopefully recognize red flags immediately.
Mhm. I think something that I really like about it as well is because you go into it with this set of expectations, and because you still have those expectations, even though the red flags are there, you're still very unsure because you're like, well, surely
Yeah.
this is going to turn around at some point. It's going to turn into what I think it's going to be.
Right.
And that even where I'm up to in Gleam, it's kind of like we're getting new character perspectives, and it's like, is there any truth there at all? Has it all just been red flags the entire time? And I really like that indecision is through like the entire thing.
Well, I did that on purpose as well because for Arin, that's her life. Like she's always kind of like, no, this is it. This is but and then so readers are like, wait, is this it? And then so I did it on purpose.
It's really hard to tell as well because it is like a dark romance. So it's like, is it gonna go
Right.
this dark or is it a
Right.
trick? And I really
Right.
love that. Like Guild stuck in my mind like months after I'd read it, and I couldn't continue because I had like other things for like book clubs and stuff. I was like, I really need to continue the series because I cannot stop thinking about how it's so different from what I expected, and it's just stuck in my brain.
Yeah, I love that.
Is there a particular reason? I mean, I'm assuming you just really love the genre, but what is it about fantasy romance that drew you to writing in that genre specifically?
Um it's my favorite. I think I mean I read all genres because I'm a mood reader, but I think the most important stories that have impacted me the most or touched me or have stayed with me have always been fantasy, whether I've read it or watched it.
Mhm.
Um, like, yeah, I don't know, there's something nostalgic about it too because it's usually like kind of medieval settings and then there's magic and there's usually a lot of awesome character growth, which I love. And yeah, I like the escape. I like getting out of this world and going to a different one.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. The thing that I really like fantasy romance as well because you have the fantasy plot line and it makes everything in the romance so much more high stakes as
Right,
well, which I
right.
really, really love. So a little bit more about Plated Prisoner. Are there any of your characters that you found easier to write or you like identify with the most?
Um, Well, Melina, I feel like is a difficult character because a lot of people view her as just a villain, but to me, she's she's not. I mean, she is in some sense, but her like I tried very hard to show how two women kind of in a very similar situation with one man
Yeah.
could go to just completely separate ways. And so she was tough because I felt like I was always balancing on a fine line of of showing maybe inner strength in a different way than are in that people probably see as not very nice, but she's cold for a reason. So she was more difficult just because I tried to be careful with her justifications for acting the way she does,
Yeah.
and making it, yeah, just fit and be completely different than Aaron. And then another difficult one, probably just Midas, just to get in his head.
Yeah. I feel like that's a difficult position to have put yourself in to write from his perspective.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because what happens when you have a person who constantly is manipulating someone emotionally and gaslighting and doing all those very toxic behaviors, but when it's them, it makes sense. It's
Yeah.
justified. So yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, he's very interesting to read from because like I said, even where I'm up to, I'm still trying to uncover if there's any truth to
Right.
anything that any of the characters have believed. So it's really interesting to get his perspective, but like you said, everything's kind of rational in his perspective, where from the
Right.
outside it's not at all.
Because that's how people are. I mean, everybody, we all justify our actions in our heads. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was important to me that I did that and it wasn't just like a shallow one-dimensional villain, you know?
hmm So I've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed as well, that the Plated Prisoner series has like blown up massively. Do you wanna I don't even know what question to ask you in relation to this. Like, did you it shocked you when that happened?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
definitely.
what was the progression of it? Was it just like overnight or was it this like slow gradual build?
So I released Guild and I knew, okay, because I got known for rom-coms. So I
Mhm.
knew I was taking a big risk releasing this series. And I got some people that were like, no, you need to do it under a different name. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, no, I don't, I don't want to do that. And so I knew when I released that, it was going to be just so different that I got a little bit of backlash from it.
Mhm.
Um, but it was important to me and it was where my heart was for writing. And so, yeah, I did glint and I got, some new readers,
Mhm.
um, that weren't necessarily from like my rom-com books. And it was pretty steady, but then once I released Gleam, it seemed like overnight
Yeah.
it exploded. And yeah, I mean, being an indie, I don't have a PA. I don't have anything anybody but
Yeah.
me. So it was overwhelming and I think it's been obviously super life changing, but I've had to learn with especially social media how to kind of just distance myself and
Yeah.
respect the people who don't like the series and who are super vocal about it,
Yeah.
and then you know be grateful to the people who love it and want to connect. So yeah, I've just had to uh, learn how to manage it all.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't imagine because with it being kind of so quick as well, like there's an adjustment period where you're just like not really sure like what's going on and why you have so
Yeah.
much attention all of a sudden. Do you know like where it blew up from? Or was it like TikTok or anything? Because I know I think that's where I might have found it.
Um, I I don't know. I started being more active on Instagram,
Yeah.
and luckily when I released Guild, I had reached out to a lot of bookstagrammers
Mhm.
to see if they wanted a copy and if they're interested. And I met a lot of great people on there who fell in love with the series, and then they started recommending it, and then from there, I think it caught on to people who do Bookstagram and then do BookTok. And
Yeah.
I wasn't on TikTok then, and it started blowing up on there too. And so yeah, I think it kind of progressed from Instagram to TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with just fantasy romance in general, we've seen a big like inflation in the amount of people reading it, which is really great to see
Yeah,
as well. After so long with like
I
no
know.
recognition, it's great to see. I know you said that you wrote, sorry, more rom-com stories before that. Is there a particular reason you wanted to go darker, or was it just because the story kind of like demanded that it was a lot darker?
Um, well, the first book I wrote before Signs of Cupidity, even though I published Cupidity first, like I said, was a dark. It's a magical realism romance. So I actually like to write dark, but I it's like I have to get out of that headspace and then go lighthearted rom-com, and then I need to get out of that headspace and go back to dark. So I like to do both, so I don't get stuck in one box or one mind frame.
We have some people in the chat saying where they found your book. So we have fan art for a couple of
Yeah,
people,
for Guild.
and
Yeah,
on a list of reverse harem recommendations as well.
yeah, that Signs of Cupidity.
I think it was recommended to me a lot because I really like dark romance, so that's where I found it.
Yeah,
But since then, I've seen it absolutely everywhere, which is it must be a great
crazy.
feeling, especially as like because with it happening so quickly and it being unprecedented, like you didn't expect it at all.
Yeah, yeah. I still can't fathom it sometimes, just because I'm still a homebody who just writes, and I talk to 5 people, and I just you know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
doesn't, because it's all online, sometimes it doesn't feel real.
hmm And then I feel like sometimes, even though it is all online, sometimes it feels too real,
Right,
considering
because
it's like all
it's in your
contained
face all the
online.
time. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
A little bit of a fun one. If there was an adaptation of the Plated Prisoner series, do you have anybody in mind that you feel would do a good job playing Oren, Midas, or Rip?
I'm awful at that. No, like, I can never like, some people are great at it. I know a lot of people are doing, like, fan casting for the
Yeah.
ACOTAR series. I'm awful at that. Like, I can't, because I just imagine the people in my head,
Yeah.
uh, and, yeah, I can't I wouldn't be able to pick anybody.
I feel like I always feel like I compare people more to other book characters because I'm so in the book world. It's like, oh, well, this character's like this character, and I know what this one looks like. But in terms of actors, I don't even.
Yeah, I'm bad at that. I
Yeah,
don't even. So a lot of authors will take pictures of, like, models or whatever,
yeah.
and base their character. I don't even do that. I just it's on my head.
Wow. I'm assuming then that you can actually, because I know some people. What's it called? The thing where you can't see pictures in your head,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm
I forget
assuming
what
you
it's called, but
can
yeah,
go
no,
in.
it's a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I
yeah.
read, right,
That's
yeah.
what mine's like, and some people are like, I can't believe that you have such a vivid mind, and it's hard to describe.
If I can't picture a scene that I need to write as a movie, I can't write it yet. Like,
Wow.
I have to picture it completely, because I like for Guild, or Play the Prisoner, I like to write immersively for this series, so I want you to be able to see and taste and hear and feel and everything, like, where you are in the book.
Yeah. Ashley just came through for me. It's Aphantasia.
I
I was
know.
hoping that Ashley was still here actually, because I know that Ashley has Aphantasia and can't see the
Oh, really?
picture.
That's, like, fascinating to me
Yeah,
that
it's
they that
fascinating to
some
me.
people, I never knew that until I saw the TikTok about it, that some people don't picture it like a movie.
Yeah. I think it's weird for either, because even when you do the aphantasia test and it's like picture something and how vivid is it, it's hard to, because it's in your own mind, so you don't have anything really to compare it to.
Right.
And it's hard to just like even conceptualize.
Yeah.
So you have your Cupid series as well as your Midas series. Which one are you more proud of, would you say?
Well,
I know they're both very different.
yeah. So I was obviously super proud of Cupid just because it was my first, and I didn't expect to have any readers, and just to take the leap into indie publishing. But as a writer, like creatively, the Play the Prisoner is important to me just because of the topics it touches on. So, and I try to be respectful but honest on how those topics are portrayed. So, yeah, definitely Play the Prisoner.
Have you co-written any books before?
Yeah, I co-write.
I thought you had, because I went onto
Yeah.
your Goodreads, because I thought you'd only written the Plated Prisoner and the Cupid series, but you have like a pretty extensive back catalogue on there.
Yeah, so I have I also have my Shifter series, which is that one's more rom-com too. But then yeah, I do have co-writes. Most recently I have the last one Ivy Asher and I did was Rabid, which is a standalone Shifter romance. That's darker. But yeah.
What how does the process differ between like co-writing with somebody else and just doing it all by yourself?
It's easier because you have to have someone that you trust and that you can write well with. Ivy and I have been best friends since I first published Cupidity. We met just online because we were both about to release a reverse harem. And yeah, so it's nice because when you go through like those doubts of, oh, does this suck, or what am I doing, or I'm stuck, I don't know what to do next, you have the other person to come in and you kind of can just cycle through it and yeah, keep the wheels turning. So it's nice to switch from carrying a series by yourself to just doing like a co-write.
How do you split the process up when you're co-writing? So like, do you write certain scenes and
yeah
else?
So what Ivy and I do is we tag. So I'll write until I don't want to write anymore, and then I'll tag her, and she'll write. We always go over each other's parts. So whatever she writes next, I'll read over it, and I can flesh it out and write, and then she'll flesh out my areas. So we just leapfrog like that.
Nice. I always find like when I speak to any authors who do co-write, I always find the process really interesting because everybody has kind of like a different one of how they decide to like assign different sections for writing. But I really like that, how you just like decide that you're done and then pass it over.
Yeah, because sometimes you can do a scene and you're fine for like 10,000 words, and sometimes you can just do 200 right then, and that's fine. You just do what you want to do.
So when it comes down to reading, first off, do you have like, what's your favorite hobby that isn't book related?
Oh my god, I don't do anything.
Just thought I'd throw that in there.
I read. I'll watch British Bake Off. That's it. I don't books. So yeah, I've always just read.
Yeah, I feel that. I do also binge TV quite frequently. I'm binging Catfish at the minute, and I think it's trashy reality TV.
I love it.
So when it comes down to reading, do you have, I know this is a difficult question, do you have a favorite book of all time?
No. I have lots of different favorites. I have like a favorite stack on my bookshelf. Like I have what's it called? Like a levels maybe. I think the first book, like when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Animorphs. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Oh, my friend just did a video where he read every book in a month, all of the Animorphs books.
Yeah, I was
Like
obsessed.
4-hour video of
They're
reading them.
fantastic. I love them. I'm mad that I gave them away. And then I think when I was in high school, I went through like my gothic romance era. And then I was into Harry Potter because everybody was back then, and Hunger Games, ACOTAR, Stone of Glass, all those big ones. But then I have other ones that aren't fantasy, like Marcus Zuzak. I love him because he's super poetic when he writes. Did you read The Book Thief?
I haven't. I have it, but
Okay.
it's outside of my comfort zone in terms of genres. So I have it because I've heard it's really good, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
So my favorite book of his actually is called I Am the Messenger. It's just a little book.
Yeah.
And the main character in that book is named Ed Kennedy, and that's actually where I got my pen name from because I love him so much.
That's great. I love that.
And then Stephen King, The Long Walk is one of my all-time favorites.
I still haven't read Stephen King either.
It's not horror because I can't do that because I'm a scaredy cat, but it's really good. So yeah, I jump around. I have lots of favorites.
That's good. I mainly read fantasy, but I always find a lot of the books that stand out to me are books that aren't fantasy because I don't read as many of them. So they tend to like jump out at me a little bit more. But did you ever watch the Animorphs show?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can remember a few episodes, like flashes of them, but yeah, I was obsessed.
It's really interesting that you have brought that up because, like I said, my friend just did this whole 1 month long project, and I don't think I'd heard of them before. I'd never seen them before.
Yeah, I never knew anybody that like read them until I saw someone on BookTok talking about them. I was like, yes, I freaking love those things.
Wow. We also have a question. Has anyone told you that you look like Alanis Morissette?
I have been told that before, especially when my hair's like this.
Yeah.
I can't sing like her though, so.
You did say just before we came live that you have a terrible singing voice.
Terrible.
Okay, so something as fantasy romance readers, we know the struggle of finding good fantasy romance books. So do you have any fantasy romance recommendations for us?
I do. So my good friend, Sarah A. Parker, she wrote one called To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, and it's a dark fantasy romance inspired by Rapunzel. Very loosely inspired by Rapunzel, but it's amazing. So you should read that for sure.
Nice. I've got my Goodreads open so I can add things.
Yeah. And it has a super pretty cover, so I love it.
It does. It's really nice.
Trying to think if there's any other like more like lesser known ones, but I'm really bad at on the spot questions like that, so I can't think of any.
Do you feel that do I have any? The only lesser known one that I have, but we're on my channel, so a lot of people already know it, is the Fortuna Swan series by KJ Sutton.
Oh yeah, I just read that book one. I haven't gone past book one, but I did read book one. Oh, you know what I'm reading? Hold on, I'm reading one right now. It's called, you've probably heard of it though, Daughter of No Worlds. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of that. I haven't read it.
It's really good. I'm looks like this pretty red dress.
Yes.
Carissa Broadbent. It's really good.
I have so many that are on. I've got quite a few that I haven't read yet. And I keep adding others to like my Goodreads. This is already on my want to read on Goodreads, apparently.
Yeah, there you go. It's good.
So it's been recommended to me at some point, which is why I've seen it. It is good.
Yeah, I just started it a couple days ago, so.
Nice.
And one, it's not fantasy technically, but because it's like a pirate ship, it kind of feels more fantasy because it's anyway, it's called Sea of Ruin by Pamela. Hold on. I have the worst memory because I just have Guild in my head right now.
I mean, me too. When after the interview, I'm going reading the last 200 pages.
Yeah, you have to tell me if the cliffhanger is bad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Pam Godwin. Okay, so that's really good. It's really dark, but it is really good.
I love a good dark.
There's definitely triggers, but yeah, it's like the writing is beautiful.
Did you say it was pirates?
Yeah.
I've been looking for a good pirate.
Oh my god, this is the best pirate book I've ever read.
I rewatched Pirates of the Caribbean and I really wanted just like good pirate stories. And they don't really exist.
No. After I read that book, I wanted, like, so many pirate books, and I just couldn't find anything that I liked as much as that. I didn't read all of them, but I was just, like, obsessed.
Okay, just a note for everybody watching, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat, because we're coming to the end of my list now. Is there any books that you recommend specifically for people who love Plated Prisoner?
The one I told you.
The Rapunzel one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually the Sea of Ruin too, because it is darker. It does have triggers.
Mhm.
Daniel Jensen, Her Bridge Kingdom. I like those books.
Yes, I really like those.
There's new books that are like coming out that I can't wait to start, like fantasy romance. But I don't have them yet, so I can't recommend them. And I can't actually. I'm looking at my bookshelf, but I can't actually see that far without my glasses, so I have no idea what's over there.
I can relate. How did you decide to do the book covers? They are beautiful.
So actually Guild, I had a different cover originally. You can see it on my Instagram. But then I just had this little voice in my head, like I really needed to change it to a symbol cover. Just for market reasons. And so I really wanted a cage, and yeah, I just went for it, and I love them. I'm really glad that I made the change, just because right now this genre, like that's what's catching people's eye.
Yeah, definitely is the kind of cover that I like as well, so I can definitely
I love them.
Okay, we have two very similar questions. One is, do you have any new series planned for the future? And the other one is, do you have any plans for other myth-inspired series specifically?
I do have a couple ideas, but I'm not sure. Usually I need to, so the way I write a book is I have a character first, and then I build like a world around them, which is what happened with the Cupid and what happened with Aaron.
Yeah.
So it's basically whatever character wins out and becomes real first in my head. So we'll see. The two, one of them is actually myth inspired, one of them is not. So we'll see.
Interesting. I mean, you do seem to have a theme going with the myth inspiration.
I know.
Not intentional, but it's worked out that way.
Yeah.
Oh, anything that you've got pre-ordered this year, or maybe what do you have pre-ordered that you're most excited for?
Oh, I have lots of them. Let me think. Well, everybody will probably know Stacey McCowan on BookTok. She has her book coming out, Ledge. Have you heard of that? You have. You'll recognize it when you look. And then Kaven, who I love, she's on BookTok. She's writing a book. It's not on pre-order yet, but I'm frothing at the mouth. And
I don't think I have seen Ledge before, but I'm obsessed with the cover.
Isn't it pretty?
Yeah.
And who else? I'm gonna be honest, I pre-order a lot of books. Amber, she has a book coming out. Her Instagram is Amber Nicole, I think. Author Amber Nicole. She has the one coming out called Book of Azrael. She's been releasing teasers, so I'm super, super excited about that one. Yeah, I pre-order a bunch, like anytime I see like a quote on BookTok or anything that I like, and download that so fast. So, and then they just pop up on my Kindle and I'm like, oh, new book.
I think FaRoFeb is really not helping for me because the weekly release posts that I'm like, I really don't need any books right now, but those look really good.
I know, because like she said, it's hard to find adult fantasy romance too, especially. So yeah, anytime something like this gets put together and you can discover new books, it's like amazing.
Yeah, it's great that there's so many authors involved as well. in
Yeah.
it, and then there's like all the giveaways and stuff, which is really cool, and all of the like live events.
Yeah.
Which have been a good time. Oh, you were talking. I mean, some people may be interested in the audience. With backstage, we were talking about a couple of events that you'll be attending. You want to talk a little bit about those?
So I'm going to Rare in Scotland in May. I think it's no, I'm not going to remember the dates. It's the end of May. And then I'm going to a Polycon in Washington, D.C. in July.
Just I should know the dates for Rare.
Yeah, it's May 20-something.
May 26th it starts.
26. And it's like, I know there's 2 days of signing. I don't know which day I'm signing on yet.
It's going to be fun. I think
super fun. I've never been to Scotland.
Edinburgh's really, really nice.
I'm excited.
I've only been once, but Ashley, who's in the chat, lives in Edinburgh now, and it's who I was planning to go to Rare with anyway. So now it's even easier because she lives in Edinburgh now. And I'm really excited.
Yeah, so those are the only two, I think.
Are you excited? I'll bet you are.
I'm super excited. I'm actually quite shy, like in real life. But when I go to book signings, like I just love them because the energy is, I mean, so infectious. Everyone just loves reading and is excited about books and excited to be there. And there's so many cool people, like cool authors, and that you would never get to see normally. So yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, because when I found the event, I think because doesn't Rare move around, so it's not always in the same place.
So my first book signing, it was in London.
Oh,
and it was Rare. It was a Rare London. Yeah.
Because I only found it when it was in Edinburgh, and like we were talking about before, it was cancelled. But it just happens that it's ideal for me that it's in Edinburgh because it's only a couple of hours away.
Yeah.
But the lineup was really good the last time I looked at it. So
yeah, they're amazing. They get really good authors.
Yeah. Oh, we have a request. Can you tell us more info about Orange Ribbons?
For book 4?
Or just is there gonna be more info?
Okay. So yeah, her ribbons. I don't know. I just saw them in a scene, and I just went with it. It was part of that. Like I have to envision a character before I can build a story on them, and they were on her. Like a lot of people in fantasy do like wings, or I try to do my own spin on things with like magic and anything like that. So yeah, I don't really know where they came from, but I just love them. And they are, so the ribbons journey and arms journey is very similar. So in book 1, you know, they're hidden, they're just kept away. She doesn't really use them. They're more just another layer of herself that she doesn't necessarily appreciate yet, just for who she is. And then in Glint, we see them a little bit coming more out of their shell, just like she is. And then Gleam, when they're finally like, when she's coming into her own and they're coming into their own. Yeah, so they just have kind of a parallel with the story.
I will say that they've provided, like I've laughed out loud at least twice in Gleam because of the ribbons.
I know, they have like their own personality. They're cute.
They are kind of cute. They remind me of like a group of puppies, the way that they're behaving in the recent chapters.
I know, I love them.
How many books will the series have in total?
So right now my plan is 5.
5.
Hopefully. I'm gonna try to end game it in 5. I don't like to stretch out a series if I don't want to do that to readers and have to make them keep waiting for the end. So my plan is 5. As long as everything happens the way I need it to happen in this book, that's probably what it will be.
And when it's done, will there be any potential for things like spin-offs, or when it's done, will it just be done?
It'll probably just be done.
Okay.
Because I'll want to move on to something else.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with them too. You could make me wait for 20 books, and I'd read them.
They say that now, but if I made them wait for 20 bucks, they'd be so mad.
I know, it's like I'm reading the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, which epic fantasy, and he releases a book every 3 years, and it's going to be 10 books in total, and I'm 28. 4 books have already been released, and I worked out I will be almost 50 when the series is done.
Oh man.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say there is something about like anticipation, because I remember like waiting for the next Harry Potter book or waiting for the next Throne of Glass book. Like it kind of like sticks in your head because, and then that anticipation just makes it so much sweeter. So I love it.
It's difficult for me whether I can agree with that right now, because I'm waiting for Sky and Breath on Tuesday, and the anxiety is real. Like when it arrives, I'm going to be scared of it.
That's true. I haven't started that series because I didn't want all the cliffhangers, so I was gonna wait till there's 2 out.
It's definitely nerve-wracking. The cliffhangers, it's not too bad in terms of cliffhangers. It's just now that it's nearly here, the second book's nearly here, the anticipation is killing me to the point where I'm too scared to actually read it.
Yeah, I get that. I do that too.
Okay, so if that is everything from the chat, I think we're about done here. But thank you very, very much for joining me today. I've had a great time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
I have put links, I believe, in the description box to definitely the Plated Prisoner series, like individual books, if you want to go check out the synopses, anybody who's watching and hasn't picked up this series yet. I think there's links to like social media and stuff down there as well. But yeah, thank you to Raven for joining me here today. And thank you to everybody who tuned in for this interview. And we will see you at some point in the future.